Welcome to the Lovecars On The Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff Needell, and Paul Woodman.
Hello and welcome to Lovecars On The Grid, where Paul is sunning himself down in Australia, so we've got Phil out of the back room and put him front page, a Formula One fan but might not know about MotoGP or NASCAR quite so much, Phil.
Thanks for having me back, Tiff. Good to be back.
Anyway, we're going to look at the latest driver gossip in Formula One, catch up with the manufacturers who are so upset with the balance of power in their World Endurance Championship, but they can't actually say balance of power because that's not allowed. Rallying has a very popular new winner of the World Rally Championship. Marc Marquez just can't stop winning in MotoGP. Indycar was very entertaining in Canada on the streets of Toronto, but it was a long, drawn-out affair for the NASCAR boys around the Monster Mile in Dover. But it's weird, Formula One, we got Spa this weekend, but it's been 3 weeks off, and it sort of feels a long time. But it's still not the summer break, because we got 2 Grand Prix back-to-back, Belgium and then Hungary, and then we got 4 weeks off before they come back again at the end of August. I don't know where it is even. And that's the official summer break. The August 4-week break is the official summer break, which is when Toto Wolff had said he would announce the Mercedes drivers for next year. So who do you think it's going to be?
Oh, it's anybody's guess at the minute. There's all sorts of rumours going on, isn't there?
I think
anybody's guess.
I do think Max is going to stay. I think the sort of decision Horner going was, I think, because the Verstappens had said, I'll stay at Red Bull if Horner goes. I've got a feeling that was a bit of an ultimatum. I'm not sure. And then, of course, the shares changed hands. So it was Austria 49% against Thailand 49%. That will keep going on for a while as to why Christian went so suddenly. But it's still a thing for the Verstappens because they're relying on. I mean, obviously, the design team at Red Bull wasn't just Adrian Newey. So there's some incredibly talented people there. But there's also the Red Bull engine, sponsored by Ford, but designed by Red Bull, but probably using a bit of Honda technology that they had in their workshops. So you reckon the engine's going to be good? What's going to be the weaker link of the Red Bull next year, the chassis or the engine?
It's anybody's guess. I think certainly the rumours of Verstappen leaving have definitely died down. So it certainly looks like he's looking to stay. But I think like I say, anybody's guess.
But actually, Juan Pablo Montoya, who does a podcast, he's very much more interested back in racing because his son's in Formula 2. So he's in with the in. And he's got a great theory that if Verstappen went to Red Bull, they'd send Antonelli to Williams.
You mean Mercedes?
Yeah, so Mercedes would send, because Williams got Mercedes engines,
yes.
They put Antonelli into Williams and put Carlos Sainz back at Red Bull. Well, not back at Red Bull. He's never been to Red Bull, has he? I'm losing myself.
Ferrari once, yeah.
So that was interesting. I like that idea because we always wondered who would they drop, Russell or Antonelli. And I sort of, Verstappen-Russell pairing, Sainz in charge at Red Bull, and Antonelli, because I think he needs another year. I think I said
I don't think he's going to leave, is he? I think if anybody's going to leave Mercedes, it'll be Russell.
No, I disagree. I think it'll be Antonelli. I think he needs somewhere. He hasn't actually, apart from his amazing, stunning debut at Australia when he was catching George in the rain, doing an amazing job. He's still been a bit hit and miss all year. Needs a bit more experience behind him. But I think Yuki's going to stay for the rest of the year. So they can't do any more. They've probably given up. So no more controversy, no more changes, no more sackings. But I can't believe Yuki will stay next year. I think he's out on his bottom. I'm not sure where poor old Yuki's going to end up.
It seems Red Bull like to come very at the top of the roster and then very at the bottom as well.
Oh, no.
I can't remember who said, but somebody said it's a one-driver team at the moment.
But who do they put in? I mean, poor Isaac Hadjar, he's actually said, because he's the obvious one, he's performed so well in racing bulls, and he's sort of, I'm not sure I'm ready for it yet. Or probably meaning to say, I don't really want to go there yet.
No, nobody wants the pressure.
But of course, next year, there's a new car, new concept. So who knows, which driver it's going to suit the style of. We really don't know. It's a very dark science going on with active aero and engines 50% electric. But who else would? I mean, who would then go to Racing Bulls? I think they're very keen on Arvin Lindblad.
Okay.
I'm still not sure Arvin's ready to this rushing them up the ladder too fast like they did with Antonelli. But if Hadjar went to Red Bull, I could probably see Lindblad going to join Lawson probably at Racing Bulls. But who knows? The other team still not settled is Alpine. Yeah. So Alpine are still in a mess, aren't they? I mean, Franco Colapinto and poor old Jack Doohan. I'd be rating, but I feel so sorry for Jack Doohan because he was kicked out, before he really had a good chance. Lots of things going wrong, tricky car to drive. The huge crash at Japan was important because he went through turn 1 with the flap open, which apparently he'd done on the simulator. Nobody had said to him, "Oh, by the way, Jack, don't do that in a real." But if you believe the simulators are perfect, you do it. But of course, it's this lure of Colapinto's South American sponsorship that seems to be central to what's going on at Alpine. But of course, Alpine is a French company called Renault, own most of it, and they're going to Mercedes engines next year. It's a company in Enstone, England, run by an Italian called Briatore. And I don't really know what's going on with Alpine. It's weird, isn't it? Because Renault pulled the engines out, or they've dropped the Alpines. They can't surely keep ownership of a Formula One team with a Mercedes engine, can they?
Who knows? It seems to be very how can we put it, multicultural at the moment.
Of course, the one room was Christian Horner might be buying into Alpine, which I like that idea, but was already talking to them maybe as a get-out clause. He probably knew the axe was coming, and maybe he's already been speaking to Alpine about the idea. It's quite nice. It's down the road from where he lives.
It would make sense, wouldn't it?
Jeremy Clarkson's providing the beer, so maybe Jeremy Clarkson being team manager. That'd be quite good. We'll get him involved. Briatore, Clarkson, and Horner running Alpine.
Some team.
But they still haven't sorted out the rest of this year. They're threatening Colapinto, but I don't think they'll go through it. I think the money, because if Renault do go, they're going to need a lot of money from somewhere, Alpine, Enstone. And whether Horner brings his own money to put in there, who knows? But they talk about Valtteri Bottas going in before the season's over, which I don't know. I mean, they've got Pierre Gasly, experienced driver.
I've not heard that one. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think Valtteri Bottas is the one that he puts his own rumours out, doesn't he? I think
I've seen that.
He loves himself. I can't believe they're not all queuing up for me. No, Valtteri, go away. Jack Doohan should have 2 or 3 more races. I don't think he'll get them. Then there's Paul Aram, their other test driver, who's a very, very accomplished. He's Estonian, isn't he? He's only about 22.
Oh, dear.
He had lots of seconds and thirds in Formula 2 and Formula 3 Championship. We never actually won one of them, but very talented. He's had a lot of testing for Mercedes and stuff. So maybe Paul Aram put a third youngster in to see if they can tame the Alpine, which everybody doesn't think it's the bottom of the points, aren't the Alpine? So it's a bit of a disaster there. So all that's going on, still driver changing this year. And then next year we've got the Cadillac. So we've got 2 more seats. And that nobody seems to... Again, Valtteri Bottas has put himself at the forefront with his social media campaign, looking at seats in Cadillacs and doing little tic-tacs or tok-toks or what's downs or whatever they are. Because they'll probably need one experienced driver, won't they? They can't really gamble. They need someone. Because, of course, Sergio Perez. They actually recently just... couple of days ago, I think, did a list of 7 drivers that they're talking to or thinking of.
That's insane.
So Perez and Bottas are the sort of the old boys with the experience.
Yeah.
Mick Schumacher, they seem, he keeps on cropping up a lot, doesn't he? But I don't think Mick, he's been out of the game. He's doing sports cars now, and he wasn't that brilliant, I don't think, in his time he had in Formula One. So
I saw that Gunther Steiner was promoting Mick, but naturally he would, being from Haas. But Gunther Steiner said Mick would be a good choice for Cadillac. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Still, obviously, a great name for the publicity.
Yes.
But the others are all... I mean, Felipe Drugovich, the Aston Martin spare driver, I believe he's really talented. He's got a lot of experience. He's been talked about. The Danish Frederick Vesti, another bit like... who did we just talk about? A bit like Paul Aram. Vesti and Aram are guys that have done really well in Formula 2. The trouble is there's so much talent, and you only get 1 or 2 drivers promoted every 2 or 3 years. So... just because you didn't win Formula 2 and Formula 3 on your way up, maybe weren't in the best team, because it's so dependent on being the right cars, but really talented drivers that haven't been able to get into Formula 1, like Drugovich, who won the Formula 2. So Vest is very talented, sensible. I don't know quite what the connection is with. So Graham Loudon, of course, is the team principal, who was in Formula One for a while. So he's obviously got contacts he knows and suggestions in his ears. He also talks about Arvin Lindblad, who, of course, is the Red Bull boy. So whether he's... I think he needs another year in Formula 2. He's about 5th or 6th in the championship now.
Yeah.
Colton Herta comes up. Of course, it's still
that one, yeah.
It's the ashes of the Andretti team. It was going to be Andretti. And then, of course, famously... Who offered Colton the Formula One drive? I can't remember now which team wanted him. Was it Haas? And they wouldn't let him. He wouldn't have him a super license because IndyCar scores very low on points. So there's still talk. I think Graham Loudon said that the trouble with Colton, he's still got the super license problem, which drives me absolutely mental because the FIA bent over backwards to Red Bull pressure to allow Arvin Lindblad to have a super. He's got enough points. Yeah, but he's not 18. The rules say 18. Oh, well, it's Red Bull. It's okay. You can have a super license. You know, he hasn't used it because, you know, he's 18 in about another 2 weeks' time. And yet they won't let the guy that was on pole position at Toronto, a multi-race winning IndyCar driver, somehow, apparently, is too inexperienced. He'd be an embarrassment on a Grand Prix. Just at times with common sense.
Yeah.
Maybe Yuki could end up as Cadillac. Are they sell in America, sell in Japan? I think they should try and get Alex Palou out of his contract with Ganassi because I think he's such a talent. I think he would be great.
There was a rumour for Pato Award as well. That I saw floating around, but he completely
denies. But they all do drivers, don't they? But they've got contracts. Keep a bit quiet.
Can't upset the sponsors, right?
But it's a funny thing for any driver to go to a completely unknown team. Chassis engine is it's lovely. It's lovely to have another team in. It's so good. It's what we need more of.
When was the last time we had a new team in Formula One? Like I can't even remember.
No, they change names a lot, don't they?
Of course,
What was Racing Bulls and what were they called? God, they've had about 5 different names.
Toro
Rosso.
Before that, they live way back, but a brand new team in Formula One, it's unheard of.
I'm just waiting for Lewis to retire so Ollie Behrman can get in a Ferrari. That's what I want. Sorry, Lewis fans. I'm sorry, Lewis fans.
You're getting shut off, Tim.
I don't think he's going to get it. It's a bit like my wife's a huge fan of Djokovic, the tennis player, who's desperately trying to get the 25th Grand Slam, which will make him the sole owner of 25. At the moment, he's equal on 24 with Margaret Court, the female Grand Slam record holder who's got 25 female Grand Slam records. But he's just, he gets through to the sort of semi-finals, quarterfinals, so 2 weeks of playing, and he just can't keep the energy levels up to go with the youngsters, Sinner and I just think Lewis is the same. I don't think he's ever going to get the 8th.
He's past his time, unfortunately.
He obviously should have had it, as we all know, but we won't go there again for now. So I don't think Lewis is going to get there. I think he'll try this new car for a year, maybe. Who knows? Maybe the new car will turn on Lewis Hamilton and he'll be the quickest in the Ferrari and he'll win it next year. But if he struggles with the new 2026 cars, I can see him walking away a bit. And I think Ollie Behrman will be the next British world champion after, obviously, Lando. Well, maybe not Lando.
You heard it here first.
To be a world champion and wearing the red of Ferrari, a world champion for Britain, Ollie Behrman. Huge talent and such a nice kid, really nice kid. Did you see the films of him down at Goodwood Revival? He was chatting. Alan Prost was sitting in his McLaren from whatever year it was, And Ollie was leading into the cockpit, just like a little fan, Oh, it's so small, isn't it?
A kid in a sweet shop.
Have you got 3 pedals? You got 3 pedals on the gear lever. Oh God, it's so nice. He's just a really nice kid that's, loving, getting there and being where he is. I'm very appreciative.
Opportunity,
yeah. So lots of fun in Formula One. I talked last week about the World Endurance Sports Cars, where I was moaning like mad because it was ridiculous. The balance of power changed, this balance of performance. I've used power. I got ticked off last week. And, Ferrari, had won the first 2 rounds or whatever, won everything. So they had to peg them back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But their computer, whatever it is, so these computerized models, whether it's climate change or anything, it still needs someone to feed the info, doesn't it?
Of course,
And then switch on the computer and stand back and say, right, do your job. But you can't always expect it to get it right. And the Ferraris were either qualified 10th and 12th in Brazil, and the Toyotas were 15th and 16th, cars that dominated the Formula 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
And it was I just said to Paul, it was an embarrassment to it was fantastic for Cadillac. They came first and second, lapped everybody except the third place Porsche. But, you're a Ferrari fan in Brazil and you bought your T-shirt and your hat, or you're a Toyota fan, you go to the race looking forward to seeing your cars. And then you say, where are all of them? So it just hasn't worked. But the bizarre thing is that Toyota and Alpine both had a bit of a kick-off, but they can't mention the word balance of performance.
I saw that, yeah.
Because their contracts say they mustn't criticise. I mean, that's ridiculous. So they just all said what a disappointing weekend it was, and how we were well back on the. But they've got to do something about that. I don't know how you change your computer. And when you see the change, you read the changes. It's like Toyota lose 3 horsepower and add 4 kilograms, and Cadillac have 6 kilograms lighter and 2 horsepower more. But it is
really tight,
tiny tweaks. But
yeah.
It's so hard. And of course, different tracks actually require different balances in a way. Circuit's got a lot of fast corners, suits one car. But because it could, Toto Wolff said, he'll never suggest Mercedes goes there because of balance of power, balance of performance. Yeah, he said that. We won't go there. But of course, McLaren they put their pictures out just today of their concept car for their 2027. They're joining in.
Yeah.
But bizarrely, and I'm not sure about the two, whether you know or not, it had Marlboro colours and Shell, which was an old McLaren sponsor.
I didn't pick up on that. No, I didn't realise. No.
You can't do that, can you? Is it just Formula One? All racing cars.
I thought it was completely banned.
I know.
Interesting.
So it's a bit sneaky. Well, I suppose nothing to stop you putting on a concept if that's what. So
maybe that's the way around it. Maybe that's the loophole. I don't know.
Yeah. So I love world endurance sports cars, but they've got to get this balance right somehow. Because GT3s are pretty good. People are pretty happy, I think, in the GT3 world. You see top fours, with BMWs and McLarens and Lamborghinis and all sorts. Incredible mixture. So they can get it, but to be so far apart, to be lapped,
it's too far.
It's
I think Toyota came out and said it was the racing was getting boring. And
yeah,
to come out and say that, it says a lot, doesn't it?
They just go around
thing,
2x2s. Well, I spoke to James Collard, who races Ferraris. The driver, actually, it's very hard for the driver to make much of a difference because it's all computerized tractions. Braking turn 2, you change your brakes to a different thing, and the hybrid comes in, and the traction control you can have. So they're very hard for a driver to suddenly make half a second. You do see some brilliant drives. And when I realised, how hard it is for the driver to make much of a difference, like in Formula One, a brilliant driver is only 0.3 faster than a very good driver.
Absolutely.
So, your driver can't help you go faster. So the World Championship sports cars do tend to go round in 2x2s, just depending on your balance of your power. Aston Martins were battling with Toyotas. So that's how it got. I think the Aston Martin split the 2 Toyotas. So you're going from the novel Aston Martin who are coming up gradually. So that was the news of the news. The action last weekend, obviously no Formula One, no World Sports Cars. The World Rally Championship provided a fairy tale story. Young Oliver Solberg, he's about 23 now. 23,
they're so young.
But he started rallying when he was 15. Of course, son of Pato Solberg, was probably driving rally cars when he was 5 or 6 on his father's lap. But he's had this sort of checkered career. He came up very, very quickly to be in the World Championship when he's 17. And Hyundai signed him up for 21, 22, part-time program. But, he had crashes and problems, and he got very emotional in a couple of interviews. He was in tears about it all, and, it was obvious to me, I keep on saying, Arvid Lindblad and others, Antonelli, let's not push them. Yes, obviously Max Verstappen could do it. Yes, okay, it's all right. Yeah, okay, I know Max Verstappen. And Ollie Behrman is proving that, he doesn't crack under stress. But so he went back to WRC 2 with Hyundai, did pretty well for a couple of years. And then it was Skoda. So he went back to WRC 2 because Hyundai dropped him. Did Skoda in 23, 24, winning a lot. Moved to Toyota for WRC 2, and he's won 3 of the 4 rallies he's done, so tremendous form, very consistent, apart from winning the handbrake turn around the hairpin bend in Monaco Grand Prix circuit.
That went viral, didn't it?
Yeah. No, not a handbrake turn, it was a drift, wasn't he? Flicked into a drift round the hotel hairpin and got into big trouble from the organisers. In fact, the only minus point of his weekend rallying is he swore at a press conference and got a $2,000 fine. So he's a human being. He's a character. He sees a crowd. Well, I'll entertain the crowd. I'll drift around the hairpin bend. You know, for him, it was completely safe. But obviously, anyone on the outside thinks, he's nearly crashing. So anyway, so Toyota gave us one-off drive in their 4th car. Was it 5th car? They've got so many cars, Toyota. Anyway, however many. And, of course, he did have the advantage of day 1 because he's the new boy with no points. He starts at the back. Mm-hmm. There's always this rallying the problem with gravel. Elfyn Evans, who's led the championship for 5 or 6 rallies, was out front sweeping, the dreaded sweeping job. So this always happens on day 1. Your championship leader tends to drop back. Then the skill is to be quicker and quicker on the days 2 and 3. So we ended up, with Oliver Solberg leading at the end of day 1. Yeah, that just, he had a clear road. Obviously he's going to do well. Yeah. So comes day, he had a 10-second lead, I think, at the end of day 1. So day 2, when he's now mixing it with the same sort of surface as everybody else, he'll drop back now. But he didn't. He extended the lead on the Saturday to 20 seconds and then cruised home on the Sunday. A faultless drive. Being chased not by other Toyotas, being chased by the 2 Hyundais. World champions, Tanak and Neuville, were chasing him, pushing him and pushing him. He didn't crack. I mean, absolutely wonderful. Tears everywhere, obviously.
I think I read it was Toyota's 100th victory as well in WRC.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So it was nice for everybody. Nice fairy tale for everybody.
Yeah. But the biggest mystery is Kalle Rovanperä, who I think he's won this rally twice out of the 2 times he's done it. Swept, 2 world championships, was it 2, I think? And then he gave up for a year to go and do Porsches and have a break. And he's come back and he just can't seem to handle that because they've changed to Hankook tyres.
Okay.
And for say, he just seems to always say, the feeling's not quite right, I can't get it. So he was 4th in his Toyota. Just not seem to get anywhere. And Elfyn Evans ended up 5th or 6th, I think, having to sweep the stages, not really coming back that strong. He's lost his championship lead now to Tanak and Hyundai. So we've been waiting for Elfyn to finally... He's been 2nd in the World Championship about 4 times.
Didn't happen.
We really thought this would be the year. We're more worried about Kalle Rovanperä coming back and pushing him away. But Rovanpera's been disappointing. Then all of a sudden, little Solberg shows them all
nowhere, which is nice.
Yeah, great. So always entertaining rallying and characters. You get more characters in rallying, I think, nowadays. And there's a wonderful young kid. MotoGP were out again. Where were they? Brno, Czech Republic.
Correct, yeah.
And Marc Marquez was winning again. I marvelled at Jim Clark dominating because I love Jim Clark. I marvelled at Schumacher dominating. Sometimes I don't mind a dominator. Max Verstappen, he dominated, and I think in this sport, you have to sit back and just say, well, he's the best, this year. The boy's the best in the best car or this year. And so Mark always, he can lose the start. At least in starts, I'd always too level. He'll straight away fight back, risk things, dart up the inside. But he won the sprint race and the Grand Prix again.
I think that's 5 in a row now?
Yeah, 5 in a row. A record for a Ducati dry rider to win 5 in a trot.
Crazy.
We had that controversy again. Bikes have got this problem with their tyre pressures. So again, we have this science is. Well, now we've invented science. It's hard to get rid of it. You know what I mean? It spoils the sport, but once you know it, because it's Formula One have got minimum tyre pressure. I don't know when they check it, but they have. It's checked at some stage during the process. But in the bikes, they've got this rule that you have to be. I think it's for 60% of the race. You must be over a certain pressure.
Okay.
But of course, bike riders and car riders know that the lower the pressure, the more the grip.
Yeah, of course.
So of course they all run as low as possible. But if you're out front, as Marquez was in the sprint race, he did it the first time he did it. He's now realised he's doing too many laps because his pressure's still below legal.
Right.
So he literally backs off, lets Acosta back into the lead, goes into Acosta's slipstream, puts his tyre pressure up for enough laps. And as soon as he's done enough laps to qualify, lap before the end just overtook him and won.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, but if you know that's going on, that's the problem again, I think, with like Formula E, for example, which I always criticise. because they're all backing off and letting people buy because they're all on. But if you're a spectator, the first time you've ever seen any motor race, and you think, God, they're amazing. They're all, the pack. Oh, look at this, how close it is. And again, with the motorbikes, if you don't have knowledge of this tire pressure thing, you might think, well, that's brilliant. Look, he took the lead with a lap to go. But it's a good weekend for Pedro Costa, though. He's been crashing and forward, trying to get this KTM up the top of the field.
Yeah.
Fine, had a good week. He finished second in the sprint race, and his teammate, I think, was third, Bastianini. So 2 KTMs, second and third. Grand Prix again, of course, Marc Marquez won it. And again, Costa was second again, and that was his third. Bezzecchi was second in the Aprilia, and KTM Costa was third. So a good mix. They're getting closer to Ducati domination, Aprilia and KTM. But it's come a bit late in the season to stop Marquez cruising off into the title. Another good story there from Jorge Martin was back. The world champion, number 1 on the plate, missed the first 2 Grand Prix because he injured himself training bike. Went out in Qatar at the end of March. And I think he finished 16th in the sprint race, crashed in the Grand Prix, hurt himself again. Then spent the last 2 or 3 months saying, I'm not going to ride for Aprilia, I'm going to switch to Honda, I've got more money coming, and lots of contractual obligations. But I think he noticed the Aprilia was starting getting quicker and quicker with Bezzecchi doing well, and said, well, actually, maybe I'll go, all right, okay, I'll stick with the contract. So he came back. He finished 11th, I think, in the sprint, and 7th in the Grand Prix. So good to see the world champion Jorge Martin back. I don't know, they've done the deal for next year, so he's staying with Aprilia. So, yes, whether we're bored with Marquez winning everything, I'm not sure, but it's just a marvel to watch a master, doing his job so well.
Respect it.
I have 3 Brits that are out doing MotoGP, not in the main formula, obviously. Jake Dixon, Moto2, had a lackluster 11th. Scott Ogden in Moto3 had an average 15th. And Eddie O'Shea had quite a good 18th for Eddie. Eddie's coming up the pack.
Okay.
So Ogden doesn't seem to be able to race. I always watch Scott Ogden. We know this to whoever's listened this far in our podcast before switching off. The end of the first race, he qualified about 11th. He always drops back normally the first lap. And I was watching him in this race, and he's always, when it's the first back come, there's 15 tyre to tyre, then he's always like 2 bike lengths behind. So, and he stays, he doesn't seem to he's got to get in there. It's funny enough, Munoz, the wild child of Moto3, Spaniard, I don't know why he was at the back of the wheel. I think it was penalty points he mounted.
Okay.
And he went from 30th to 14th on lap 1. With Ogden was one of the people he overtook.
Insane.
He was in the top 3 by lap 3/4 of the way through and finished second. So
some race.
So you've got to get. They are brave, these kids in Moto3, and they just.
But they're young lads. They're young, right? I mean,
the
winner of Moto3 was 19 years old. Like, that's crazy.
So entertaining as always, MotoGPs. I love the 3 races. If you're watching telly, they're all on the morning. They're quite early. Okay. So you get up in the morning, you can watch Moto3, Moto2, Grand Prix, and you at lunchtime, and then you go out for the afternoon. Before coming back for American motorsport, IndyCar around Toronto. I said last week, watch it. It will be entertaining, and it is epic round there. I mean, 27 cars, you watch it go 2, 1, 3 ride, concrete walls both sides, one huge long straight where you can slipstream and dive brake at the end with real tight right, left. You look at the onboards, no pass steering, you see the opposite lock going on, you see the walls, the tyres touching walls. I mean, even without the racing, I've always said this, if a car is exciting to watch on its own, then you've got a good set of regulations.
Absolutely.
And Toronto is just, the only trouble with IndyCar, which it helps in a way, because it's so done on tactics, but you go for a 2-stop or a 3-stop. So they're refueling, of course, so you can save fuel, you can last a bit longer. They have to have the 2 types of tyres, so you go the soft first or the hard first.
Yeah.
And of course, all your strategy can go completely out the window if just when you're on your strategy, someone crashes and the full course yellow comes out and everyone dives into the pits and you lose that strategy. So in fact, this weekend threw up a new winner because Alec Palou, who's won everything this year, he was leading, he got the strategy, but his strategy, this was wrong.
I read that.
And he finished 12th. So there's the superstar, but he just kept on getting handicapped. Every time he got something going, there'd be a safety car or someone went off, he had to. So, in fact, the same problem hit Louis Foster, our really talented British rookie, who's leading the rookie points. Okay. He qualified 7th. He was actually running 2nd behind Pato, this strategy, but all the others had gone into the pits for swap tyres. So he also got into trouble for the wrong strategy. And I think Pato was behind him after they both stopped. They're both mid-pack, and Pato barged by him. And I think it might have touched and damaged Louis' car, because he then dropped into the pits for 4 laps. So he didn't feature in the end. But he's good. We've got a Brit out there that's really doing us well. And again, a Brit that chose to go to America and not try to go the Formula 2, Formula 3 path, knowing how hard it was.
To get in.
And he won like the Formula 3 and the Formula 2. And if you win those 2 championships, you get $1 million sponsorship to move up the steps. So the Americans have got this system which will help you.
Okay.
He's got some sponsorship from his family as well, but so we had some surprises. Pato led with Louis behind him, but ended up 12th. Pato Award won with a McLaren. In fact, at the end, the last few laps were fairly processional because he had quite a big lead. Okay. But again, a great story was that Rinus VeeKay, who qualified at 7th, the Dutch bloke who's dropped out of a factory team with his privateer Dale Coyne racing team. He finished 2nd out of the blue, so someone from nowhere. And this Cayman Islands, Kiffin Simpson in a Ganassi car. He's sort of brought his own money. He's not sort of rated as that brilliant or natural, but very, very good with good financial backing. But he has got quicker recently, and he ended up 3rd. So he was over. So there's lots of great stories, on the podium. Colton Herta finished 4th on the wrong strategy. He was pole man and did a great job for Andretti. But I just love watching those cars going around that racetrack, diving in for overtaking moves, banging wheels. And it's what motor racing should be like. Watch IndyCar. Watch IndyCar. Not every race, I keep on saying, not every race. NASCAR can be boring as well. NASCAR was boring last weekend. The other part of my evening catching up. They went to the Dover Speedway, the Monster Mile. And there was just no overtaking. It was
professional.
It was processional. It was so hard to overtake. I mean, people did move up very slowly. Kyle Larson, I think, came from 20th to run about 5th and ended up 4th. But there's just until it rained. So Denny Hamlin was leading, and I think it was chasing him. Timothy, I think it was one of them was chasing him. I've got it written somewhere. Christopher Bell was chasing him.
Okay.
But he just couldn't have, he was just a second behind, and you get into the dirty air and the guys move up and down the track to block the air. They literally put bad air in front of you. They see what you're doing and which line you're going. They move up into the front of your car. But then it rained. And then we had to wait an hour, which I didn't. I woke up this morning to watch the end of it. And then it was really exciting. So, of course, all the headlines were, dramatic Dover race, But it was only because they had 3 restarts to finish nine laps. They only had 9 laps to finish to get to the end of the race after the rain stopped. But every time Denny Hamlin with his worn-out tyres, some stopped for new tyres and they were challenging him. And so it was dramatic, the last 9 laps. But it took about 17 laps with all the pace cars, because once it goes to over the 400 laps, you have the green flags. So yes, it was exciting at the end, but it wasn't exciting for the 393 laps before it.
I read that there was lots of penalties for speeding in the pit lane. 7 drivers penalised for.
They always there's always even the best. They have to do it on their own rev counter. They've got no button.
So there's no button on Formula 1.
No. So on the pace car laps, if you're watching and never watched it before, after 2 laps followed by the pace car, the build up to the start, they drive through the pit lane.
Okay. So
the pace car sets the speed and leads the pack. It allows them all to check their rev counter and what gear they are for the pit lane speed. Or so they might have speed. I don't know these speedos or just revs.
And what's the penalty for the speed in the pit lane then? What did he get?
Well, you've got to have a drive-through. Go back.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a nightmare, drive-through nightmare. So on short tracks, you'll lose a lap, it's pretty disastrous. But that was always entertaining. There was stuff going on, but not enough for average. So that was all the action. There was nothing going on in Britain last weekend. There was, I'm sure, some wonderful national racing. There was a wonderful supercar event down in Dorset, where I was there. That was wonderful to go to. So nothing major going on in Britain. Lots of club racing, I'm sure. So it's back to Formula One finally this weekend. I'm off to Spa to entertain my Motor Passion guests. I shall be there. We've got a sprint race on the Saturday, Formula 2 and Formula 3. I love sprint race formats. Because you get a qualifying on the Friday, don't you? Yeah, you get qualifying on Friday, a sprint race on Saturday, and a Grand Prix on Sunday. So there's a highlight. Whereas when I suddenly see, oh gosh, it's FP1, FP2, I don't bother with the Friday almost, Because,
no, very true. Yeah, so, I guess that's the idea of the sprint race as well, to get more people watching across the weekend. And it's working. Yeah,
I mean, sometimes the race is a bit of a procession. Nobody wants to risk their cars, but it's a start and it's a race. So Formula 2, Formula 3, World Superbikes down in Balaton Park, which I've never heard of.
Hungary. No, me neither. Hungary.
You've got to go to Budapest if you want to do World Superbikes. Most of the good action, apart from Formula, is America again, because I love America. IndyCar Laguna Seca with the drop into the corkscrew and the dirt and dust. And they go off track and there's sand all over the circuit, gets slippery. So that should be good. And the IMSA boys with their hypercars go to Road America, the best road course in the world. Hardest to watch, but always IMSA. IMSA.com has it live. You can go on IMSA.com. So on Sunday night, you can go and watch Road America or Laguna Seca IndyCars, which will be on Formula One on Sky Sports. NASCAR go to Indianapolis for their 400-mile round. They'd spent a few years on the road course, but they'd given up on that. Apparently the drivers didn't like that. It was a rubbish circuit for racing anyway. But even the Brickyard, the Indianapolis, that will be fairly processional. I wouldn't predict too much excitement for this NASCAR race. Because it's a bit single file. It's not got much banking, the Indianapolis course. So it's a bit single file. It gets exciting on the restarts, NASCAR. It's always because you come 2 by 2 again. So there's always the opportunity for a bit of chaos, a bit of overtaking, which is why they have stages, because there's actually 3 races. They do a third of the race. Someone wins stage 1, gets points for the playoffs. Then they all go out for a restart. So you're guaranteed 3 starts. At least. And of course, then the yellow flags, you get 4 starts and 5 starts and 6 starts. So it depends on how many cautions you get. But people don't crash as much as they used to. The new cars, if you touch the wall, they got, I don't know, it's carbon fibre, they got composite bodywork. So it hits and bends. But up until 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, this new Gem, they had metal bodywork. So if they hit the wall, it turned the aluminium in on the tyre. And so you get tyre rub. It was also drama. The commentators, the smoke would come out, Wow. Oh, I'm not sure he can continue with that amount of tyre rub, tyre smoke. So that was, and then the tyre would go pop and the car would crash, and then you get another yellow. So we don't have exploding tyres as much, although we do still have them, because again, going back to tyre pressures in Formula One or MotoGPs, of course, it's the same with camber. You put more camber on, especially around the ovals and tracks, you get a bit more front-end grip. So a lot of teams will risk having a bit more camber, and then the tyres do explode and they hit the wall. So you still get exploding tyre. Imagine if Formula One saying, "Well, boy, you just have to accept life. Yeah, your tyre will, occasionally explode and you will crash." Well, that happened, didn't it? About 10, 15 years ago, we had exploding Pirellis, didn't we? And all the drivers were up in arms. But back home, there's either 2 choices back home of major events. British Superbikes at Brands Hatch, where I will be. Or you can go to London if you want, to some exhibition centre, and you can maybe watch some
electric cars.
Electric cars for their final race on Saturday and Sunday, double header. Of course, the championship's already over and won, and you'll have to wait to Sao Paulo in December before your next dose of Formula E. So anyway, London's the place for the electric fans. Brands Hatch for the superbikes.
Lots going on this weekend. Lots of racing.
There's usually something somewhere, isn't there? When's the British touring cars back there? They're back at Croft in a week's time. So, yeah, I don't know when the Formula One Academy girls are. They seem to have a very spread out calendar. They're not at Spa either. Not at Hungary either. Formula 2, Formula 3 at Hungary. There's always stuff. That's why we're here, to tell people. There you are, Phil. You can go round the world with Lovecars. That's the idea. A pleasure having you with me today. We'll get
Thank you very much for having me again, mate.
Swanning around the world that he's been doing, and keep on looking at motorsport wherever it happens. Cheers.
Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.